Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayomi Bava Basra Chav Beis. We are holding on Chav Beis Amud Aleph 11 lines off the top of the Amud. We begin with a story of Hanu Dikuloi. There were these basket dealers. Another pshat in Rashi is Meichre Yoyres. They were pot dealers, right, selling pots and vats. So they imported their merchandise to the city of Bavel. Daisu Dikloi Dikuli LeBavel. Bavel was both the name of a land, Bavel, and also it was a name of a city, of a town. So they came to Bavel to sell their wares. Also Bnei Masa, so the local residents came along and they tried to block them from introducing competition to the local merchants. Kama Akvi, Ilvayu. Also coming to Ravina, they come to Ravina. Amar Lahu, he tells them, look, Me alma asu, la alma lizbenu. They're not going to sell to the locals. Rather, it's going to be market day, right? Coming soon. So every so often they had this, international market day where visitors would come, buy and sell their wares. So me'alma asu, true, they come from elsewhere, and we learned yesterday, according to all opinions, a guest, a visitor, has no right to compete with a local. But here it's different because they're not selling to locals. Let them sell to the visitors who are coming to visit that market from elsewhere. It sounds from Taisus like they can't even sell to locals. So they have to confirm that in fact their customer is a visitor. According to other Mefarshim, once they're allowed to sell in the market, the whole setting is a totally different type of setting, which allows for suspension of this restriction, meaning they can go and sell during the market time, regardless of the identity of their customer. Because primarily, it's meant for visitors, it's an international market, and they have a right to do that. But again, this is strictly pertaining to the day of the shuk. But otherwise they can't. And even on the Yom HaShuk, it only works if they're selling it at the market, but to make their rounds around the town, that they can't do. Okay, so although we learned that a foreigner, a guest, a visitor cannot compete with a local merchant, but during the Yom HaShuk it's different. Here comes another story about an importer. Hanu Amurai, they were these wool merchants. The Aisu Amra, Lipum Nahara, they brought their merchandise to the town of Pum Nahara. Also B'nai Masa Kamakvilai. Once again, the locals protested, wanted to prevent them from selling their merchandise, lest they present a competition to the local. They're encroaching on the local merchants. Also come to Rav Kahana. They come to Rav Kahana, Amar Lahu, and he tells them, look, the locals are right. The local residents are following the halacha. They have a right to stop you from selling. So they responded, well, we've already sold some of our merchandise on credit, and we have to wait around until we collect the balance owed to us, and we have to live. We have to have where to live from, support ourselves during this time, during these few days, until we collect our accounts. Islan Ashroi means credit. B'masa, we have some customers who purchased on credit. Amrlu, he told them, Zilu zavnu shiur chiyusaychu. Okay, then you're allowed to sell only as much as you need to sustain yourself. Chiyusaychu. Until ada krisa ashrai ditchu, until you collect all your accounts. Vazlisu, and then you'll leave. We have a third story. Rav Dimi Menahardah. He was a Talmud Chacham. I see grey grois besfina. He imported some dried figs by boat. And some Mefarshim learn it was a Yom HaShuk, right? It was a market day, he had a right to sell, despite the fact that he was a foreigner. Amalei Rish Galusa, so the Reish HaKol, the head of the community, instructed L'Rava, told Rava, who was the big Chacham, the big Rav in town, go confirm that in fact this Yid, Rav Dimi Min Harda, is a Talmud Chacham, which would grant him special rights, special privileges granted to Talmidei Chachamim, where they would basically ask everybody to stop selling their merchandise. So let's say in the case of these figs, nobody would sell figs until the Chacham sold his figs first. He got priority, which will ensure that he has a successful business experience. So Reish Galusa told Rava, Puk Chazi, go take a look, go check him out. Itzurba Mira Baranhu, if in fact he's a Talmud Chacham, worthy of this privilege, Nokadei Shuka, you'll stop the market, basically, he'll halt all sales of figs until he gets his chance. So could you please let me know? Amarli Rava, so Rava went ahead and sent his Talmud, the Rav Ada bar Abba. Go check him out, go ask him some questions, interview him, Poik, go out, Tohi le bekankani, smell his barrel, or his jug. It's an expression Rashi says which applies to wine, right? They take a smell, take a sniff to see if it's in fact wine or spoiled wine. Okay, so basically check him out. Give him a little, quiz. Nafak, he went out, Azal, he went, and he asked him the following exotic question. We have an elephant that swallowed a basket made of arava branches. And discharged it as it would regular waste. Mao, what is the status of that container? Is it considered like a kli which is susceptible to tumah, like any other kli? Is it makabel tumah, or is it not makabel tumah? Taisus actually explains, based on a Gemara in Menachos, which has this very same question, that we're not speaking about an actual kli which was swallowed, because if it came out intact, it wouldn't lose its status. It's still a kli. Rather, we're speaking that the animal swallowed these branches, a bunch of these branches, and going through its digestive system, they got entangled and attached, and they came out in a kli form. So the question is, do we treat it like a regular utensil, which is makabel tumah, or do we say, just like klei gelalim, utensils made from animal waste is not makabel tumah, this as well is considered klei gelalim because it was produced within the animal's digestive system. Interesting question. So that was the question he asked Rav Dimi Minarda. He was stumped, he didn't have an answer. So Rav Ada bar Abba wasn't impressed. Now Taisus asks, what do you mean? This was the same question asked in the Gemara, and the Gemara didn't either have an answer. So he says, true, but it was expected of him at least to present, similar arguments and factors and proofs as per the Gemara. He didn't do so. He didn't have an answer. Amar Leiser of Dimi, the guest, was kind of like intimidated by his interviewer. Marnihi Rava, are you the famous tzaddik, the famous Chacham Rava? I'm very, impressed by. Tafach b'sandale. So Rav Ada bar Abba responded to him a little bit, with a sort of a lack of respect. He took a stick and he tapped him on his sandal. Amar Lei, and he says, I'm not Rava. Ben Didi la Rava, between me and Rava, we're light years away. Ikatuba, much space between us in terms of our status. I'm nowhere near Rava. Miu al karchach, but certainly I'm no Rabbach. I'm your Rebbe, because I wasn't impressed with your lack of response. Rava, and the truth is that Rava is Rabba the Rabbach, is the Rebbe of your Rebbe. So it's basically you on the bottom, me over you, and Rav on top of me. So because of this sort of failed experience, Lo Yinachtu Le'Shuka, they didn't instruct the townspeople to give him priority. Pasid Gregorius today, and perhaps he wasn't the most proficient businessman, and he was not successful. He didn't sell his stuff, and it got, he lost it. It got spoiled. So now he had a major loss. Also, so he came to Rav Yosef to complain. Amar Lei, he tells him, Chazi Mar, my Avdali. Do you see what they did to me? Amar Lei, so Rav Yosef responded pretty harshly. Man deloi shahayilu nisa. the one that did not delay retribution on account of the embarrassment, the Malka the Edom experienced by the king of Edom, meaning Hashem, who responded forcefully and punished those who ridiculed the king of Edom, lo inish haye lo nisech, should also not delay punishment in retribution to the bizayin, embarrassment that you suffered. What was the story of Edom? Hashem says, Al shloisha pishei Moav, I will relent temporarily on account of the 3 violations of Moav, but on the 4th one not. That I will not delay. What did they do? Al sarfu atzmais melech Edom lesid. They burnt the Edom king to Sid, to lie. They embarrassed. They degraded him. So Rabbi Yosef was sort of issuing like a decree, a klala, for causing Rav Dimi loss. Who passed away? Noch nafshe de Rav Adabar Abba. So Rav Adabar Abba, who interviewed Rav Dimi, passed away. Rav Yosef responded in anguish. He says, "Oh, I'm at fault. I caused that. Ano nishte. Why? I cursed him." Rav Dimi Merado Amar. Rav Dimi, whose merchandise was lost, he took the blame on himself. Amar Ano nishte. I was the catalyst for Rav Adabar Abba's passing. DAF said Gregor Stadi, because it was my merchandise that he caused me to lose. So I'm at fault. And Taisus explains, what were these Amoraim doing? We're going to have a total of 5 different versions. Different Amoraim who took blame for what happened. He says because it's not a positive thing for a tzaddik to be a conduit, to be a cause for even a Rasha's punishment. Right? Because basically the retribution is going through him, through the tzaddik. It's not a positive thing to be a catalyst for that. So they were all taking blame for what happened. First Rabbi Yosef, then Rav Dimi. Abaya Omar, he says, I'm at fault for a totally unrelated reason. I caused him to die. The Omar Lula Rabban, because Rav Adabar Abba was accustomed to telling the Chachamim, don't go learn Torah by Abai, go to Rav's yeshiva. You'll do better there. Adamagrumisu garmi bones. Before you start, sucking bones by Abaye in his yeshiva, meaning not learning Torah in a satiating way, to Achla Bisra Shmeina Beirava, go have fatty meat by Rava, go learn by him. So he's sort of putting down Abaye's learning, and Abaye says, I'm to blame because Hashem was responding and protecting my honor, and therefore he died. Rava says, I take the blame. I'm the one that caused him to get killed. For a totally different reason. Because when Rav Adabar Abba would come to the butcher shop, the Mishkal Umtzah to buy meat, he would instruct the butchers, let me get the meat. Before Rava's servant. So he was there with Rava's servant. He says, I go first. Because I'm greater than Rava. So by sort of comparing himself to Rava and putting Rava down, Rava says that was the cause of his punishment. And finally, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Amar, I'm at fault. Ananishti. Why? Again, a totally unrelated story. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Reish Kalahava. He was the one who would give the public shiurim on Shabbos. So Kol Yom, every time, before he would go on to have his shiur, he would review it with Rav Adabar Abba. By the way, Tesa says it wasn't Rav Adabar Ahava. That's a totally different person. Here is Rav Adabar Abba. In any case, he was his partner, his chavrusa. Marat Ba'adei Rav Adabar Abba. Lishmaite, Rav Adabar Abba would review the upcoming shiur with him to give clarity and preparation for the shiur. And he would go on to give his presentation. It so happens to be that on this day, he got delayed. Rav Adabar Abba didn't show up on time. Naktua, why? He was held back by Rav Papa, Rav Huna Yeshua. They were holding up Rav Adabar Abba. Why? They had some questions to ask him. Because they failed to attend the session in the Beis Medrash called Siyuma. Rashi says, the end of the Perik of Maser Behema, the end of Bechayres, where Rava went through different halachas, and they missed that session. They wanted to catch up with him. They asked him, Emerlan Mar, please tell us, Hani Shmaitz Maser Behema, all those halachas in the Perik Maser Behema, Heichei Amrin and Rava, How exactly did Rabbi say it? Amrlu hachi amar Rabba, v'ach amar Rabba, and he responded in great detail. Rabbi said azoi, Rabbi said like this. And by the time they were finished at the hachi nogalei, as this was going on, it got very late. Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzchak. Nachman Yitzchak failed to go into the shir. It was past 9 o'clock. It was getting late because his chavrusa hadn't shown up. He wasn't really well prepared. Amrli Rabbanan. So Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzchak's Rabbanan in attendance turned to Rabbi Nachman. What's going on? Why are we waiting? Come, get up. The nagalon. It's getting late. Lama Yasamar. Why are you sitting and waiting? Amrli told him, Yasivna, I'm waiting, and I find it hard to believe that my chavrusa just failed to attend, failed to show up to our learning. He must have passed away, and that's why he's not coming. I'm waiting for his coffin to show up. I'm waiting for the mita, for the coffin, the Rabbi Abba. And that's what happened at the Hachi. Sure enough, Nafa Kala, there's a announcement, the Nach Nafshe, the Rabbi Abba passed away. Right? Shkoga, Kishkoga, Hayoitse, Mipial Shalat, a Chacham says something, it has an effect. The Gemara concludes that in fact it is probable that Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak answered that he in fact was the cause of the einish because of what he said. Okay, so let's conclude. We had a story about the basket importers. They were able to sell to the people at the market. The wool importers were not. Only as long as they were in town to collect their accounts. The story of Rav Dimar Ardo was not given that priority. And eventually Rav Abba passed away, and we have 5 versions as to the reason. Okay, says the Mishnah. Back to Harchakas Nezaken. Right, that you have to keep your distance from your neighbor's assets in anticipation of a possible future inflicting of damage. Okay, we speak about building a wall. So your wall is near your next door neighbor. You shouldn't build that wall unless you keep it 4 amma away from his wall. Why? We'll see in the Gemara. Furthermore, you have to respect his privacy and refrain from blocking his light. Let's say your neighbor has windows and you're building a wall next to it. Whether the wall is a bit higher than the windows, whether it's a bit lower. You have to keep it 4 amis away. So if it's higher, go up all the way. Another 4 amis, lest you stand on top and peer down. If it's lower than the window, keep it 4 amis below the window, so you don't have the opportunity to stand on your wall and peer into the window. Ben mekenegda, how far away opposite that wall to avoid blocking that light? Arba amis, you have to leave 4 amis. Now the Gemara is going to have a kasha. Because the Mishnah begins by saying, if your wall was next to that neighbor's wall, don't put up the wall. You already have that wall. So it collapsed, it fell down. Why would you place that first wall next to your neighbor if you need to keep back 4 amis? It almost sounds like the first wall was built right alongside, within 4 amis. And the second wall, when you're rebuilding it, then you have to keep it away 4 amis. Why and how? Who allowed you to place that first wall next to the neighbor's wall? Amar means like this. No, there was never a wall there. It's the first time he's building. The property line where theoretically he can put the wall is next to the neighbor's wall. But now you're going and building a wall for the first time. The only way you can build is by leaving 4 amis. Rabbi has a kasha. Mishnah clearly indicates that there was already a pre-existing wall there, then it collapsed. So the question is, what was that first wall doing so close to the neighbor's wall? Rabbi says, Mishnah means like this. The first wall was 4 amis away, but then it collapsed. And he's rebuilding that wall. Initially, he built the wall 4 amis away, as per the halach. Now, it fell down. He wants to rebuild the wall. Don't think, and just because he had already left 4 amis, and the the ground was already padded down by the people trafficking back and forth, which we're going to see in a minute is the primary reason for leaving the 4 ames, to firm up the foundation. So it was already done. It's an old wall. Still, don't think that when it comes time to rebuild that wall, you can build it close by. Even the second time around, you can't build it right near the first wall, right near the neighbor's wall. Unless he leaves a 4 ames space between the walls. My time, what's the point of leaving 4 ames? The DAF shadahacha, because the trampling over here, Ma'ali Lasam helps for the long term. It pats down the soil. It packs it down, it makes it firm, makes it stiff, and reinforces the foundations. Amarav, Leishano, it's only a concern. It's a wall around a vegetable garden where there's nobody trampling on the inside, so you need at least the outside to be traveled and trampled and patted down. But if it's a wall around your chutzner, where there are people on the inside and the outside, there's no restriction. You can put your wall right next to your neighbor's wall because there are people on the other side of the walls, on the inside of on the interior of the chutzner, walking around, packing down the earth. Rabbi Yeshua Amar, no. Rabbi Yeshua Amar, echad kaisel gina, echad kaisel chutzner, whether it's a gina or a chutzner, you need to keep 4 ames away. In you can't place one wall next to the other. There's no machlekes really. No machlekes. He's speaking about an old city, an inhabited city. So the ground has been packed down. So if it's by a chutzner, there's no concern. Habir chadash, but it's a fresh new town. Everything is still soft and mushy. There, even by a kaisel chutzner, this setback is required because the dafsha, the patting down by way of foot traffic, is important. So now, let's move on to the next part of the Mishnah. Building a wall near your neighbor's window requires distancing as well, for privacy purposes, right? Ben melamalan, ben melamatan, ben mekenegna, arba amois. You have to keep it 4 ames away. But Tanya and the Bryce explains, melamalan, so your wall is a bit higher than the window next door. That's not enough. Pick it up 4 ames above the window. You know why? So you shouldn't lean over it, peek into the window. Milamatan. It's the top of your wall. It is below your next door neighbor's window. You got to keep it really low. 4 ames below the window. So you're not tempted to stand on your wall and peek in. And either way, you have to keep it away from that window, so that it doesn't block his light. Right? So you have to leave space between your wall and the window. Time is seemingly the concern is only blocking light. There's no concern about packing down the earth. Right? The Brisa makes no mention of that. Why not? If dafsha is the real concern, why is it ignored? It says the Gemara, Hachab my skin, and you know why? Because here we're speaking about a case where it's not a factor. The wall that you're building is not parallel to your neighbor's wall. It's perpendicular to the wall. So in this case, there's enough open space. Right? So let's say his wall is going east-west, and your wall is jutting in north-south. Right? Even if you're not going to keep it 4 ames away from the wall, it doesn't matter, because people can go on either side of your wall, alongside his wall. You're not blocking traffic. If it's parallel, so if you keep it too close, there's nowhere to move. You can't get through, there's no traffic going through. So you need 4 ames to allow for davasha. But going perpendicular is not really interfering with traffic. So we have no davasha factor there. The only factor we have is blocking light. So how far away from that window should it be offset? Rabbi Yehuda, he was the father-in-law, the Ashim Bar Nidbach, Mishmei quotes Rav, Mishmei Rav, a window's width. So basically, well, there's several ways to explain. Some Rishonim say a window is typically a tefach, some say it's an amma, some say whatever the window is. So let's say his window is 5 tefachim. So when you place your wall alongside his, perpendicular to his, you should move it away from his window that much. as wide as his window is, and that allows that to be sufficient to allow for the light to trickle in. Says the Gemara, "V'aloi meitzitz." But if your wall is jutting into his wall, so even if it's higher or lower, you can still, lean over and peek in. Amar Rav Zvid b'madris Kessler was speaking that he slanted the top of his wall. So the top of the jutting wall is sort of leaning down and doesn't really allow for convenient perch and peek. So there's no concern there. Asks the Gemara, "V'anantanan arba ames." Now, if you take a look at our Mishnah, and our Mishnah is also apparently speaking about the same type of arrangement. Taisa says because the Mishnah also, at least the last part of the Mishnah, does not allude to davsha, to the trampling issue. It seems like it's only a concern about privacy or light blockage. So apparently we're speaking about the same type of configuration. Rather than two parallel walls, we're speaking about a perpendicular type of arrangement. If that's the case, why does the Mishnah mention 4 ames? V'anantnan arba ames. Mishnah says b'kenegdon, how far away, right? How much offset do you need? 4 ames. Why do you need 4 ames? We just said that kimulei rechav chaloin is enough, the size of a window. Like Kasha, the answer is kam ruach achas. The Brisa, which gives a smaller offset, is speaking there's only one wall on one side of the window. So you offset it a bit, there's enough light all around. Kan mishtei ruchas. The Mishnah is speaking that there are 2 walls jutting in, one on either side of that window. So let's just picture, we have a wall that Reuben built going east-west. Shimon's coming along with 2 walls going north-south, one on either side of the window. So the window is sort of sandwiched between these 2 walls, not much light getting in there. In order to rectify that, you need 4 amma of space. Okay, so in conclusion, we have many concerns when we build walls. There's the point of allowing people to get through so that the ground becomes firm and packed down, which benefits the foundations. Right? That only applies if it's a kaisel gina or a kaisel chatzar by chadasha. It does not apply when the walls are perpendicular to each other. But we have other concerns, privacy and light blockage, as we mentioned. Tashma, it comes another kasha on this idea of davsha. So in a minute we're going to see a Mishnah that you have to keep your wall away from the other fellow's eave trough. A 4 amma gap. Why? To allow him some space to set up his slanted ladder, which gives him access to his eave trough for maintenance purposes. That's the Mishnah. Apparently it's the only concern. What about Damsha? For his wall. You need space to get through, to pack down the earth. Time of Misham Sulam. Apparently it's only concern because of ladder placements. Aval Misham Damsha, but Damsha is not a concern. Why not? Answers the Gemara, you know why? Skin was speaking Maschila Mishupas. His eave trough is perched at the edge of his slanted roof, which is jutting out of his house. So in that case, the Imisham Davsha, if for the Davsha concern, Imisham Davshu, Haka Asa to say, there's plenty of room alongside that wall. Because look, he has a house with a slanted roof coming out, and the eave trough is quite a distance from his actual wall. The Mishnah is instructing his neighbor Shimon that when he builds a wall, it should be with adequate distance between himself and the eave trough, which is very far from the actual wall of the house. And the point is to allow for the ladder placement. But if not for that issue, Davsha would not be a reason to compel Shimon to create a gap to pull back his wall from the eave trough, because there's plenty of space, walking space, until you get to the actual house. Right? Under that overhang, there's plenty of space for people to walk back and forth and pack down the earth. It says the Mishnah, Marchikin is Asul min Hashoivach Arba Ames. So Shimon has a birdhouse on his side of the wall. Reuben has to be careful. He shouldn't place a ladder leaning on that wall if it's within 4 amma of the birdhouse. Kadei shaloi tikpoi tanamiyah, lest the little animal, some type of rat, some type of weasel, jumps out from his hole and climbs up that ladder and skips into the birdhouse and attacks. Pesach Kaisel ben Amaschila Dalad Amris, as we just said, K'dei Sheizoi K'Besasu. Asks the Gemara, Lema Masnis Look Rabbi Yesi. It appears that our Mishnah, which compels the neighbor to exude extra responsibility in taking precautions and preventing any future possible harm coming from his activities, is like Rabbi Yesi. It's not like Rabbi Yesi. Did Rabbi Yesi, because according to Rabbi Yesi, it's not my business. Ha'amar, he says like this. There's no concern with, for instance, planting a tree alongside a neighbor's pit. Roots? Okay, we'll worry about it then. You can dig, I can plant. We can't stop each other because there's no direct act of mazik taking place. So it would seem that our Mishnah, and Rashi says many other Mishnahs in our parak as well, which instruct neighbors to be careful and taking extra precautions and anticipating any future possible harms and damages taking place. That's not going like Rabbi Yesi, who says that a potential victim, he has to be aware. I don't have to take precautions. I feel the time Rabbi Yesi says, there were no our Mishnah Kefal Rabbi Yesi Shita Homer Rav Ashi. Didn't Rav Ashi tell us? Ki Avinu Rav Kahana, when we came to Rav Kahana, Hava Omar, he would tell us, Ma'idu Rabbi Yesi, Begir did they, even Rabbi Yesi, who allows planting of trees without that distancing requirement, agrees that if it's Giri Didei, if the effect is felt immediately, like an arrow that's shot out, if the effect is immediate, he agrees you can't do that. That's the case over here by the weasel. It could happen that as you're placing down that ladder, boom, the weasel who was hiding in a hole notices an opportunity and jumps at the opportunity, literally. The cups and jumps out and accesses the birdhouse through your ladder. So that's a direct, immediate effect. And that's why you have to be careful in this case, even according to Rabbi Yossi. Asks the Gemara, but I understand the effect is immediate, but it's still indirect. I'm not actually personally attacking your birds. V'gramahu, it's just a grama. So why must I be careful on that? We know that if a person is mazik through a grama, he's potter. Amrav Tubi Bar Kisna, you're right. After the fact, you're potter. But Zayis Emeris, we learn from here, grama ben zakin, being involved in causation of damages, although after the fact you're perhaps not liable, but you're still usher, you're not allowed to do that. That explains the precautions that the Mishnah instructs us about. Let's summarize today's daf. We started with a story of the basket importers who were allowed to sell to the market people, the wool people who were allowed to sell as long as they were in town. We had a story about the figs and how Rav Ada bar Abba passed away due to possibility of 5 different causes. We had the halacha about keeping the wall away from the other wall in order to allow the foot travelers to pack down the earth. We have halachas about privacy, about blockage of light, and finally about a ladder placed by a birdhouse, which works even according to Rabbi Yossi because of a possible immediate effect. All the best to you, and aslach.